I'm Eric Parker. This morning on CT21, the Omicron variant has arrived in the United States. So how concerned should we be? And why have Connecticut's COVID positivity numbers been so high recently? Dr. Manisha Juthani, the commissioner of the Connecticut Department of Public Health, is joining us to address those questions. We're also digging into what's behind the shortage of substitute teachers in Connecticut. How bad is it? And what's being done to manage the problem? And we're talking with a woman who puts the giving in the season of giving and has been for a very long time. It's all ahead this morning, the first Sunday of December. CT21 starts right now.
From Channel 3, this is Connecticut's most watched current affairs program, CT21, with Eric Parker, sponsored by Hartford Healthcare.
Good morning. The news started trickling out on Thanksgiving night. The new COVID variant had been discovered in South Africa. By the next day, Black Friday, the World Health Organization gave the variant a name, Omicron, and it has designated as a variant of concern. By this past Wednesday, the first U.S. case had been identified in California. So how much of a concern is it both around the world and here in Connecticut? Joining us to talk about that and the recent jump in the COVID positivity rates in our state is Dr. Manisha Juthani, the commissioner of the Connecticut Department of Public Health. Commissioner, thanks for being with us once again. Let's start with Omicron. How concerned should we be?
Well, first of all, thanks for having me back on again. So I think we know now that the first case has been identified in California. What we know about the person who was identified is that he had come back from South Africa. He was vaccinated. It was within 6 months, so he had not been boosted. He's recovering well. He had a mild case of illness. What we can say is that vaccines are still remaining to be shown as to how efficacious they will be against this particular variant. But it is very likely that vaccines will have some effect, even if it's not perfect. So recovering from a mild case of COVID is still a major win for a vaccine. And so what I would say to people is we shouldn't panic. We need to wait for the science to catch up. We know that the variant has been identified here in the United States. We need scientific discovery to continue to look at whether the blood of people who've been vaccinated and has neutralizing antibodies actually works against this particular variant. And that'll give us a sense of how protective our current vaccines here in the United States have been. But we can expect that this variant will be here in the United States. I'm sure we will identify more cases, and we are hard at work in Connecticut looking for it as well.
I know the reaction from a lot of people, Dr. Juthani, was, oh, geez, another one. You know, it seems like just when everything starts to feel like maybe we're getting closer to normal, we hear about this. Is this just part of a pandemic, part of a virus like this that we'll continue to hear about mutations and have to deal with them?
You know, I think we all are frustrated and tired from this pandemic. And I think we've done a good job in the United States vaccinating large parts of our population. But there are a few things to consider when we have large segments of the world that is still unvaccinated, and you have virus that has the ability to continue to jump from person to person, mostly in the unvaccinated, and that's where it replicates the most. When that happens and there is the ability to mutate along the way, or sometimes people who are immunocompromised can have chronic, longer versions of COVID, where even within one host, you can have multiple mutations develop, which then can be transmitted to others. In either case, this is unfortunately the part of what happens with viruses. And because of the world we live in now, where people travel so much and are all over the world, the spread of this type of respiratory virus variant is much faster than you would have seen, for example, with HIV, which also has happened, but of course is much slower because of the modes of transmission. So I think we need to continue to vaccinate the world, not just the United States. And over time, we will be able to get more of a handle of this so that the emergence of variants can slow down, hopefully, over time.
So variants, of course, just one part of it. We've also been tracking those positivity rates. The governor releasing some new ones that were pretty concerning as they've started to creep upwards. What do you think is the cause for that upward creep, and are you concerned about it?
Well, we know a few things. Number one is that in cold weather, all respiratory viruses circulate more. And so we had always been anticipating that the winter would be a more difficult time, especially with the Delta variant, which is all of what we've got here in Connecticut. but much more transmissible than the Alpha variant or what we originally had, the original COVID variant. So that was sort of what we've anticipated and projected for quite some time. But I think what we have on top of that is some waning immunity for people who are 6 months or more out from their initial vaccine series, which is another complicating factor. The third is that this virus finds the unvaccinated. Of the people who are in the hospital, 75% consistently across the board have been unvaccinated people. And another large segment of our population that is still unvaccinated are our 5 to 11-year-olds who were just made eligible in the last several weeks. And we are making very good progress. We are almost double the national average in terms of the number of children who have been vaccinated so far. But even if that's in the 25% range, we still have 75% of children who are 5 to 11 who have not been vaccinated. And we have other young people in our 12 to young 30s age group who are less vaccinated than older adults. And so these are the groups that are going to be the most vulnerable to being infected, even if they aren't the most likely to get hospitalized. And so we need to continue to push our vaccination efforts across the board, especially as we enter these winter months.
I don't know about the Zoom link, but I think you can see my notes because you touched on everything I was just about to ask you. I want to unpack a couple things. Just give me some quick answers because we're running out of time. Boosters, you talked about waning immunity. How are we doing on boosters? You're still encouraging people, obviously, to make those appointments?
To be very clear, 18 and older, every adult is eligible for the booster. This is what the CDC has said. We are absolutely encouraging everybody across the board to get a booster shot. We are doing well in Connecticut so far in the sense that about 50% of those 65 and older have already been boosted. This is great progress. Many of the people who are younger than 65, we have a ways to go. And we are about 22% overall of our vaccinated population that has been boosted. So we have others that are going to be eligible and should go out and get a booster. I also want to let people know, we know that a lot of the pharmacies have been having a lot of appointments and having some challenges with people getting in to get vaccines. I want you to go to ct.gov/COVID vaccine. You can put your zip code in and find availability. In addition to that, when you go to that site, you can see where we have our DPH vans deployed across the state. These are walk-up sites. You go and you just get your shot. It is very easy. You can see a number of clinics that are available throughout the state. The site is updated on a daily basis with more clinics that we are bringing online every single day.
Dr. Juthani, about 30 seconds left. Kids, obviously, starting to see those numbers go up with the vaccinated, the younger kids. As the holidays are approaching, more gatherings, things like that. Are you happy with the rate with the under 11s, or you want to see even more?
I'm happy that we are almost above the national average by twice, but I would like to see a whole lot more. And I know that availability and appointments are also a challenge, but I think that for those parents that have been sitting on the sidelines, talk to your friends whose kids have gotten both shots. People have been doing very well. It's a well-tolerated vaccine.
All right, Dr. Manisha Juthani, the Commissioner of the Department of Public Health. Thank you for being with us once again. A lot more we could talk about on this topic. I'm sure we'll see you back here again soon. Thank you for being with us on this Sunday morning.
Thanks for having me, Eric.
Coming up later in our broadcast, meet a local woman who's making sure children around Connecticut enjoy this holiday season. Up next, we're talking about a shortage of substitute teachers in Connecticut's classrooms. We're looking at how it's impacting students and education. Fran Rabinowitz is on deck. We'll be back with her right after this break.